This video is brought to you by Miniature Market. Thousands of board games, discounted prices, miniaturemarket.com.
Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today we are trying to be undercover, trying to give clever clues to other spies, trying to see which ones are on our team, which ones are not. Today we are looking at a sequel to a very popular game last year that came out that actually is nominated for the German Game of the Year, Spiele Jahres this year. We're looking at the sequel to Codenames, Codenames Pictures. This is for 2 or more players from Czech's Game Edition, CGE. And so let me show you how it's played, how it's a little bit different from normal Codenames, and I'll give you my final thoughts. I want to preface this by saying the artwork and the components in this version that I am showing you is not 100% final. There still can be some changes to it. Codename Pictures is a team game where you'll have 2 teams, a blue team and a red team. And what you're trying to do is get your team to run out of tiles before the other team. Now each team has 2 clue givers. They will sit on this side of the table looking at these upside down, and the clue takers and guessers will be on this side looking at these. Now the clue givers will get to see which one of these cards, or which all of them, are theirs. So when they look at the cards, they'll see which ones in the grid of this 5x4 grid that those cards are laid out are their respective team's colors. The white ones essentially are neutral, they're neither teams, and the X is the assassin. If you ever get your team to, by accident, guess the assassin, the game ends immediately and the other team wins. This little light here just says which team goes first. That team actually will get 1 additional tile. This is sort of the double agent. It has both sides on there. So the blue team would go first, they would add this, so they actually have to get 1 more than the other team, but they get to go first. So one thing you'll notice from this grid, it is a 4x5 grid, which is smaller than the original Codenames, which is a 5x5 grid, and each team has to get 1 less correct than before, so it's a little bit more condensed and a little bit easier to get to the end result. So how the game works is the blue team is going to go first, and they are going to give a 1-word clue and then tell you how many cards they're trying to get you to point at. So they might say Africa 2. And the guessing side, we would be over here looking and we'd be saying, what's Africa? Let's see, arrows might be from Africa. This gentleman, Pharaoh here, might be from Africa. Let's see, mummies from the desert, so that might be it. Maybe we're taking a parachute into Africa, I don't know. Zebras, possibly in Africa. Let's see. Well, Africa is surrounded by bodies of water that have shark. Maybe it's this. A tough one. Let's say, okay, but let's say we point at this one. As soon as we point at one, they will show that we're right or wrong by putting the color that is actually this one. If they put the blue, that's good. We get to continue. If this card was incorrect, depending on that grid that I showed you earlier, they would know which one to put down. If it was a neutral one, we would just end our turn right there. Nothing worse happens. It's just we know that it wasn't correct. But sometimes you might actually guess for the wrong team by accident. This might have been the Reds team card, and they didn't give us a very good clue for that, and our turn would have ended, and red would have gotten a point, and then it would actually go to the red team. But in this case, it was correct, so the blue team would go here, and then we would get to, since she said Africa 2, we would get to select 1 more. So let's say we did say zebra, and we would say, yes, that's correct, and then we would basically stop there. Then it would be the red player's team. So let's say dangerous 3. So the other team knows they're trying to get 3 things that are dangerous. Well, an arrow can be dangerous. Let's see. This looks like a pineapple, but it kind of looks like a grenade. And the cool thing here is, like, a lot of the pictures, pretty much, a lot of them have like 2 possible meanings with them. Let's see. The mummy might be kind of dangerous. That's definitely dangerous. Let's see. Hey, even swinging on a tower could be dangerous. A shark could be dangerous. This dragon could be dangerous. This guy could be dangerous. What's the most dangerous thing? I'm definitely going to go shark. That looks dangerous. The red team would put this here and go, yep, that's correct. And of course, this would be a different clue giver from the blue clue giver. And maybe they go, oh yeah, this guy's definitely dangerous. Let's do that. So red would go, yep. And you got 1 more and they go, hey, let's go here. And the red team would go, no, you're wrong. It was just a neutral one. So then this would continue. Now, in subsequent rounds, if you get all of them correct, even if they say 1. So let's say they said, weapon 1. And we selected this and it was correct for the blue team. They would put this. They get 1 bonus guess because they got all of their things correct. And what this is to try to guess something that you missed earlier. So if we had missed one earlier, and we had got all of them correct for this round, we get a chance to do one bonus guess, and we can do that. Now, right now, we hadn't gotten any wrong, so it would be just a completely random guess, so that wouldn't be smart. But if we had gotten one earlier wrong, like maybe it was, scary, we got something wrong, and we really thought that we could get scary this time, and maybe we say, oh yeah, the dragon's scary, we would get that bonus guess to try to guess this. Now, this continues until all the tiles are gone for each player, or if someone says, I think it's this, and it's the assassin, the game is over immediately, and the other team would win. So whoever runs out first is the winner of Codename Pictures. Now here's those same cards, and I want to give you the perspective of what it would look like from the giver's perspective, because in the regular Codenames, you had words that faced you from this direction, and now when you're the clue giver, well, because they have to be pictures and they need to be big enough for everyone to see on the other side, you have to look at them upside down, and some of the pictures can be tricky upside down. For example, this one in the game, I thought for sure it looked like a whale's tail coming out of the water. But when you flip it over the right way, it's clearly somebody climbing a hill with some mushrooms there. And everyone we showed this to went, yeah, you're right, it does look kind of like a whale coming out of water there, a whale's tail. So some of the pictures can trick you a little bit upside down, and it is a little harder at first to kind of look at these things upside down and do it, but this is what it looks like from the clue giver's perspective. Now there is a two-player version where obviously one player is the clue giver, one player is the other one, and you play it the same way, but in between your turn, the clue giver, let's say we were the blue team when we went and we got, say, 2 correct, then the clue giver gets to place one of the other teams on any of the ones that are actually theirs, and they get to strategically place it so they can basically say which one is not ours anymore that's theirs, and that will help them narrow down their clues later. And you just try to run out before the red team does in this case if we were blue, and then you get a certain score depending on the amount of tiles that you beat them by. There's also a 3-player game, and you can play it 2 ways. You can either have 2 different clue givers up there and 1 clue guesser, I guess, and the guesser's on both players' teams, and whoever wins, wins. Or you can play it cooperatively just like the 2-player version. In case you don't know, I loved the original Codenames. The first time I played it was last year at Dice Tower Con before it came out, and the instant I played that game, I was like in love. I'm like, this game is special, absolutely special. And it's probably going to win the Spiele des Jahres award. And I still love that game to this date. The synergy with the teammates, the way you got to be clever with words. So how does this one differ, and do I like it more or less? It's definitely the same, but it's definitely very different. I mean, the mechanisms are exactly the same. Exactly the same. You're giving clues, you're trying to get them to guess, but the biggest difference, obviously, is the pictures. But the other difference is that I didn't know was going to happen with this was the difference in the number of cards in the grid. And as I showed you in that video, the original Codenames had a 5x5 grid, and you had 25 cards out there, where now you only have 20. It's a 4x5, and that might not seem like a lot, but it did make the game feel a lot different for 2 different ways. Codename Pictures in general, I would say, is an easier barrier of entry to Codenames. I think they wanted to give this to people that liked Codenames, but maybe aren't that good at words. They like the idea of it, but maybe they didn't like the word aspect of it. And they wanted to give them a picture version. Some people think more visually than cerebrally, I would guess, or more wordsmithy. So I think that's what they were trying to do here, and I think they hit that nail on the head. I think it's an easier, more approachable way to Codenames. Because there's less to think about. In Codenames, I love it, but the only problem is I'm very gun shy about when I teach it to new players. I'm always one of the clue givers, and it's hard to always pick that other first clue giver, because when you get there and you're looking at all those words, 25 different words, you're looking at not only your clues, but which one's the assassins, which ones are not yours, which ones are the other teams. And usually when you set the game up, you're sitting there staring for 5 or more minutes thinking, okay, let me just take all this in and think about the clues. And so the beginning's really tough, especially if you've never played it before and you're a clue giver. You're like, ugh. Usually we want to play once on that other side first and then come over, and it's still your first time doing it is really hard. It's tough, and that's always been the only issue I've ever had with the game is it's hard to put someone in that spot for the first time, and some people never like being in that spot. With Codename Pictures, it's a lot easier, and I think it's going to be a lot easier to get people to get in that spot. Because the pictures themselves just, I don't know why, but when we were playing it, they just come to mind a little bit easier. And you don't have to be as clever, I would say, with a lot of the wordplay that you would with Codenames. We found this game to be shorter, and we found it to be a lot easier than the regular Codenames. And again, this might just be because, now I like the actual Codenames, the original, better than this because I really loved that sense of satisfaction when you give a very clever clue with some interesting wordplay and they get it. It's so cool. And not to say that you couldn't do that with this, but I think there's less layers of that in there. Now, granted, these cards have, as you saw, some of them have multiple meanings, but they don't have colors because that would be too easy to say red or blue or something like that. But they do have some multiple meanings, and you can still be somewhat clever. But I don't think the opportunities and the options to be clever are as much with the word game. So the word game has so many more opportunities, which makes it a little bit more AP prone. It makes it a little bit longer, and it's harder because there's more cards. This cuts it down, streamlines it, makes the pictures easier, makes it smaller. And anyways, it just makes it a lot easier. So I preferably like the original version a lot better. I enjoyed this version. It was fine. And I think this would be easier for me to bring out to places of people that don't play games. But I love the original version. And this one just seemed a little too easy and a little too streamlined for my liking. But if you played Codenames and you just thought it was a little too thinky, it moved a little too slow, but you like the idea of it, boom, this is for you. If you think the original one was just a little too high barrier entry for somebody to be a clue giver, boom, this one's for you. And if you think that you just like pictures better than staring at words, this one's probably for you. Do you need to own both? I don't know. That's going to be up to you. If you have a split family that likes both sides, maybe you play one and you switch off. For me, I love the original. It's the best for me, but this is a good effort and it does things differently. And even though all they've done is put pictures on there and shrunk it down, it does feel quite different, even though it's the same. And that's Codename Pictures.
This video was sponsored by Miniature Market's Review Corner. The Review Corner features podcasts, video, and written game reviews by gamers for gamers. Miniature Market, the online gaming superstore. Thousands of board games, discounted prices. Check them out at miniaturemarket.com. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for backing me on Kickstarter and making this season become a reality. I'd like to especially thank those here that have backed me at the credit level. Now, these video reviews are also available by audio on our podcast. It's the intros and the final thoughts on GameBoyGeek.com. Click podcast.